What would I do with time? If I was living in accordance with how I want to be in relationship with time, what would I do with time? How would I spend an 8-hour period? If I wasn't listening to some story, to some should, if I wasn't trying to figure it out, if I wasn't trying to do it right, if I wasn't trying to play capitalism, with the hypothetical question or the mental model of looking at if 4 to 7 a.m., if 5 to 8 a.m. was otherwise occupied. And 4 to 7 p.m. was otherwise occupied. And every day, 8 to 4 p.m. was free. Free to do what one is actually in alignment with. Not the shoulds from the external, and also not the habituations of coping mechanisms. And the simplest answer, inside of the simplest answer, is a longing to feel alive, to feel authentic, and to feel aligned, as an ALIGNED. Alive, authentic, and aligned. How much of it would be free flow, and how much of it would be structured? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, what a cute kitty. Oh my goodness, what a cute kitty. What a cute, old, ancient floof. Cute kitty. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. There'd be a learning component. There'd be an expressive component. Yeah, I think reading and writing would be big pieces. But I also think that it would depend on the phase of life and the the context and the environment. Because right now, my life has kind of a hermited quality to it. So in this hermited quality, there'd be more of that reading and writing. But part of the aliveness, I know that when I travel abroad, when I'm more in my element, I like to be out more amongst the people. So there'd be writing, reading, making music. Busking. Spending time in nature. Spending time in parks. Be a lot of time spending just being, not coming from a doing oriented standpoint. A lot more resting, a lot more meditating. A lot more healing through being. Yeah, being more present with loved ones. And I think more activities for fun that don't have agenda. I think game and play are super important for the game and play are super important for the psyche. And I think when trying to, when we're in like a fight or flight mode, or when we're in a gotta figure everything out mode, there's a tendency to push aside fun and game and play and say that fun and game and play are not just to say that they're superfluous when in fact they're essential. I think it's so good for the mind, body, soul, spirit to just play a game, like to play a game. To play different kinds of games. And in the hypothetical conceptual situation of not only having 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day to do whatever one wants to do, but to also have a stipend of $8,000 a month, 4,000 of which can go to expenses and 4,000 of which can go to savings. And that in and of itself would create an ease, a very visceral shift. Like a massive exhale, a massive kind of relief and release that would in some ways be more poignant, more profound than the $8,000 itself, meaning the psychological, emotional, mental ramifications of knowing that $8,000 was coming in every month would be more impactful than what the $8,000 would go about doing, because 4,000 would go away into savings and 4,000 would start to handle expenses and whatnot. But the feeling of peace and safety and I think the parasympathetic response, if we looked at this years later, that one would say I was more impacted by the relief and the release than I was impacted by the money itself. So I think the invitation is to find a way to cultivate that state, whatever that state is, that I don't have to worry. People will refer to it as trusting the universe. But if that state can be cultivated, that state in and of itself would probably generate tens, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. That's my hypothesis. But personally, it would free up a lot of energy, and energy to be creative, but not in a dogmatic creative way, in the ways that we're called to come out. It would create a lot of location freedom, in the sense that I would be able to travel a lot, either by using some of that $4,000 a month, towards buying a van, or simply by doing more frequent, smaller trips by plane, and maintaining a base in Colorado, for example, and co-maintaining a space in Colorado, less likely to have my quote unquote own place, more likely to share space, even in this next season, even if the money was that great. Or it could be that I just used that money to let's put it this way: if I lived alone, I would want to live alone very close to community, essentially, to love and to community. Um, I don't want to be. This was a time of life for total aloneness. The next chapter feels like some type of cohabiting feels right. I still want my I still want a lot of solitude that in that connectedness. Um, but that feels important. Although I could, if need be, yeah, I could, if need be, it could go both ways. I could, if need be, have my own place, and I could have a shared space. With that kind of money coming in, that provides a lot of flexibility. Um, and it could be, for example, that if I was sharing a space, that more money could be allotted to interesting things like gym memberships, for example. Or allotted toward things um, that are outside of where I lived. Would there be a lot more freedom? For nature, for creativity, for travel, for play. I don't think my ambitions would die down, but I would find ways to really contain them and temper them rather than letting them kind of run the show, rather than letting the ambitions kind of yeah, rather than letting the ambitions be this underlying pulse, this crank of the wheel. I would contain them much more so, which I think I need to be doing anyways. I need to. One of the biggest lessons that I learned from some of the work that I did back in the day was that it wasn't really until I basically that expertise was not doing more and more and thinking about it frantically and more and more and more, that it was the shift from expertise to mastery, the shift from expert to master was containment. The expert was good, but the expert kind of let it run the show. It controlled the expert, whereas the master controls it. So, in other words, with the expert, it was always on the expert's mind. It was always on the expert's mind. The expert worked 6 hours a day. The expert thought about it the rest of the day. The expert thought about it at night while sleeping. The expert thought about it while waking up in the morning. It was this 24/7 immersion. And then when expert evolved to master, it shifted into this very contained 2-hour chunk of the day, 8:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. And that was it. And it was like, this is when I begin, this is how long I focus, and this is when I stop. And there was something so powerful and liberating and profitable. It was like, it was wins across the board. And so I think if I did let my ambitions seep into that 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. time frame every day, that they'd be very contained, very contained. It would be like, this is when I write. This is when I record. This is when I learn. And it might not be every day. There'd probably be a lot of weekly, there'd probably be a fair amount of weekly blocks. Where it's like, okay, every Wednesday at 11 a.m. as opposed to every day at 11 a.m. Cutie patootie, buddy, 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 buddy chunky, buddy belly, buddy belly, buddy belly, buddy belly. Such a good belly. Such a good belly. Such a good belly. And I think one piece is that there'd be much more focus on what I'm not doing. That it wouldn't just be about the flow. It wouldn't be about flow in the sense of from one instant gratification to the next, to the next. I think that there would be, between that time, there wouldn't be any sugar. There wouldn't be any social media. There perhaps possibly wouldn't be any media altogether. And by that I mean screen media. Because at the root of aliveness, wanting to be as alive as possible. Again, I know from experience that I have felt more alive when I'm more out in nature and more away from technology. I felt more alive, more aligned, more authentic when I'm out there in the world. When I'm out there without Wi-Fi, without cell phone reception. And I'm, more in tune with the natural rhythm of things. More I'm reading books. It's like, yeah, where the non-presence shows up. It's like I want to be present with where I am. Walking the night stalls, going and getting food, and just something about being around swarms of people that just feels so alive. And where the non-presence is reserved for things like reading. Reading is not being engaged in where one is. But there's something different about, imagine waking up. I'm just going to create a little amalgam here. Waking up and stepping outside of the hut and going to the place where the old man has the yogurt drinks, and you have the yogurt drink, and then you walk all the steps down to where the steps become the sandy steps. And now you're on the beach and you watch the sunrise. And you wade in the shallow waters. And you swim for maybe, an hour, hour and a half. And then you walk down the alleyways. To where there's that plate of rice and beans and jicama salad. And you eat that rice and beans and jicama salad while journaling. And the journaling feels so good. Because it's just pen or pencil and notebook in this timeless way. And then you head back to the hut. And at the hut, you pick up the guitar. You start to play. And you find something with which to hit record. But it's not an iPhone with notifications and apps. It's just a device that records. You hit record and you play and you sing and you let it be, and it goes and it is. And so all this time you've been connecting with the real. You've been connecting with where you are. The old man with the yogurt drinks and the beach and the rice and beans and jicama salad, and you've been in these different places and you've been engaging in your thoughts and you've been in the creative process. And that when you do begin to consume something, after setting down the guitar, you pull out a book, just a worn paperback book, and you hold it in your hand and you read. And it's not present anymore. You're going into fiction or you're going into the past, but there's something so much cleaner about it than the phone with all the apps. Something so much cleaner about it than the computer screen with all the videos. And again, There's a time and place. There's a conscious time and place for the screens, but it's so hard to be with them consciously when they're designed for us to become addicted to them. And there's always something else, right? Whether it's the thumb, endless scroll, or the stuff on the computer screens, there's always something more. There's always something else. Yet when you hold a book in your hand, and it's the only book you have, it's the only paperback book you brought with you, it's all you got. And you dive into it, and you're with it, and you're present with it. You're timeless with it. And then you put the book down, you go out the hut, and you walk a mile, and then you walk inside, and then you roll out a yoga mat, and you're in a class now for the next hour doing yoga. Breathing and moving, breathing and moving. And afterwards, you get yourself a carrot, ginger, lemon juice in a tall glass, and you sit there drinking it. You pull out your journal again and write down a few things, and you strike up a conversation. You get to know someone, and someone gets to know you a little bit. And you never see him again, but it was a real moment of human connection. So there's so much more that can happen in this alive, aligned, authentic place. And it takes a willingness to set up environments and to set up commitments. So that all of the toxins, the poisons, are left behind. All the artificial enhancers, all the artificial sweeteners are left behind in some capacity, are set aside to some capacity. So that what wants to emerge, the aliveness and the authenticity and the alignment that wants to emerge can, because it's not drowned out by sugar or caffeine or screens, or social media, or dogma, or shoulds, or workaholism, or relentless capitalism, or insecurity and self-doubt, shame, guilt, fear, worry, that space is made. Space is made for what wants to emerge. Space is made for what wants to emerge.